Hi, it's Alex Counts again. This week I'll be talking again about using volunteers in nonprofit organizations and how you can avoid some of the pitfalls that I talked about last week and get great value out of volunteers. I'll be starting and ending with stories about volunteers making an impact on organizations that I led for my book, Changing the World Without Losing Your Mind. It comes from chapter 13 called Forging Partnerships, where I talk about how volunteers and other types of partners really helped us deliver on our mission. So let me begin this video talking about a guy named Jim Greenberg, who would go on to become a board member of Grameen Foundation. But initially, he sent us a donation, 5-figure donation, to, as he later said, to get us to pay attention to him. And then he sent a fax from where he was living at the time in the Middle East. And he said, I can make a $500,000 donation, but I'd like it to be done in a certain way. There was a catch. We needed to match his donation through a fundraising campaign that would bring more money to what he wanted to donate to for our work in India. And I was initially kind of skeptical. I said, why can't he just give us the money and just stay away and let us spend it how we want? But I said, well, maybe we can do this. And it actually prompted me to get in touch with a guy named Steve Rockefeller, who would later also join our board, and ask him to help us raise the match, which I wouldn't have done unless Jim had challenged us. And that became a whole other great story of a volunteer playing a tremendous role. But I'll stick with Jim for now. We raised the $500,000 match, so we got the $500,000 from Jim. That was great. Jim went on to offer to help us design some new programs in India, a place where he was quite familiar from his business life. And in the meantime, he recruited someone onto our board who'd later chair it, I had no contact with, named Bob Eichfeld. And the two of them ended up playing a tremendous role developing, conceptualizing, attracting funds for our work in India, led to the creation of kind of an investment bank for microfinance in India. Also an affiliate of ours, Grameen Foundation India. We had a partnership with the two largest private banks in India, and little Grameen Foundation sitting at the table with the two banks with the biggest footprint in the country. It was a tremendous things that they did, but they didn't even stop there. Jim and Bob developed a global loan guarantee facility that was an industry leader and raised the capital for it to a large extent. And they did all this for free, did not charge us, and oftentimes they wouldn't even charge us for their travel expenses to do this. They developed as well a joint venture in the Middle East that made us a big player in the Arab world microfinance for more than a decade. They did many other things. Again, they both joined our board. And so the one thing, that one moment where he wanted to help, he wanted to make a donation, but it had a catch. He wanted to volunteer. He wanted to be more than a passive donor. And if I had just said, Jim, we'll take your $500,000, but please leave it to the pros. Don't cause us to have to put you to work. None of those things happen, and I'm even leaving out a few. There's just so much that Jim did. Now, was Jim sometimes a little difficult to manage? Was he opinionated? Did he occasionally rub our staff the wrong way, or even me? Yes, but employees do that as well. But what he brought to us in terms of his own time, expertise, connections, wisdom, and new people that would join our fold, because he was so turned on. He felt that he was kind of turned loose to bring all that he had to our mission. We were open to his ideas, not just him implementing ours. So my main message is, when a volunteer offers to support you, brings an idea, brings a proposal that they want to partner with you, don't initially dismiss it. It may not have been what you woke up that day wanting to do. It may seem like a distraction. But if you take a little time, go back and spend even 15 minutes, 30 minutes, is there some way in which this idea or this offer could be a solution to a problem we have as an organization? May need to be tweaked a little bit, may need to be altered, but may need to be done a little differently than you thought. And if you spend that time, 15 minutes, even an hour, for the right volunteer who's got long-term potential as a donor and in other ways, boy, I would say it's worth it, and you'll sometimes come up with things that'll surprise you and surprise them. Now, having a volunteer program that works well is not easy. There's certain best practices. You set high expectations for donors. Don't expect them to fail or to just kind of give up or not follow through. If you expect that, you'll probably get that. But if you have high expectations for them, even I know people, and I wouldn't probably do this in most cases, would have volunteers supervise professional staff, have that level of responsibility. You certainly want to recognize what they bring to the organization, their hours, their accomplishments. Maybe they bring a certain type of discipline or expertise. Recognize that and measure it. Measure how many hours volunteers bring. Measure the value of it in dollars by assigning some hourly amount or daily amount to what they would charge if they were charging you as a consultant for what they're doing. Make it easy for them. We design work in nonprofits that are professionally run around people working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, or often much more than that. But what if we designed our work a little differently, that it could be done 2 or 3 hours or on the weekend or in the evenings or in some way? It's not that hard, but you just need to kind of get your mentality. Could we chunk this work out differently, that it could be done by someone for 20, 30 hours a month as opposed to 40, 50, 60 hours a week? Give training. Train the volunteers, set them up for success, and also train your staff about how to partner with volunteers effectively. For those that haven't had that experience in nonprofits that are professionally run, you can't assume that they know how to do that. And the simplest way to involve people as volunteers, I find, is to ask them for advice. Some problem you're grappling with that plays to their expertise in some way. And boy, people who give advice, if only that level of volunteering, they tend to be much more interested in giving money, in giving other ways. They feel respected. They feel like they can pontificate without necessarily having to live with the consequences. That's your job as the leader or as the professional staff member. One of the adages of fundraising is, if you want money, ask for advice. And if you want advice, ask for money. Think about it. I'll close with this story. We had a pro bono lawyer who helped us a lot in Houston named Mitch. And Mitch, I once took him out to dinner. I was so grateful. Hundreds of hours of pro bono legal advice. And I thanked him, and he turned around and thanked me. And I said, "Why are you thanking me? You've helped us so much." He said, "Well, I've got very good at one little piece of the law, and my law firm wouldn't let me do anything except that type of legal engagement because I was so expensive. I billed at such a high rate." So he was terrifically bored with what he did, and we gave him an opportunity to branch out, to do legal work outside of his core area of expertise, build a new one really, that he could only do through volunteering. He was so grateful to us. He's been kind and supportive of us ever since, as his career actually went in some very different directions. And so when you bring a volunteer in, they're giving you unpaid labor. They're filling up that talent gap, that human resources that you don't have enough of to apply your solution. But you're also making an investment in them and maybe opening doors for them that they didn't know, and they'll be forever grateful. And they may go on to do things that don't necessarily involve your organization, but involve making this a better world. So try to be an organization that, as opposed to those startups where they're only volunteers, where you have the money for professional staff, but you open up ways for volunteers of all ages, of all skill levels, to come in, work alongside your staff, and to get more work done for improving society.